Today I'm going to be telling a story that's a little different than usual, but I feel like it's something that a lot of you can relate to, and it's definitely been something that's negatively been significant in my life, and it's something that unfortunately I still struggle with. So I wanted to talk a little bit about it. Just to update you, for those of you who watched my video last about my sugar addiction, I'm doing a lot better. I have cut back. I haven't completely stopped eating sugar, but I've cut back, which is really good. So I definitely feel like there's hope around the bend. And then I'm not wearing my lashes because I got a really bad eye infection. So had to have the lashes removed. They're taking a break for a few weeks, and I'll get them back later. But I want to talk to you guys about my experience throughout my life with obsessive compulsive disorder. It has been very crippling at times, and starting to kind of creep back, especially during times of stress. Before I talk about it, though, I do want to bring some attention to a video that I watched recently by Renee, who has struggled with anxiety herself, and it's a very good video. I will try to link it down below. And she talks about many things to help overcome your anxiety, but specifically about basically that's just your brain. And you have to tell your brain to shut it off and kind of live every moment in that moment. So if there's something that is forthcoming in the future that's causing you anxiety, for instance, what you would do instead is just kind of live in the now. Think about, okay, what am I doing right now? I'm sitting in front of a camera. I'm not going to worry about public speaking tomorrow, or not having enough money to pay my bills. Not going to worry about my wedding. Not going to worry about the loved ones in my future who will die eventually, So that really hit home, and I think that a lot of people who are struggling with OCD can also relate to that, or people who are struggling with anxiety, many other mental illnesses, etc. So I know that was a long intro, but I wanted to make that clear. It's a very, very good video. She's a great YouTube influencer anyway, but I really wanted to make that known. So I'm going to talk about my experience growing up with OCD as a child, when I started to notice that there was a problem, kind of before I even really realized what it was, and then learning about it into now. I'm going to try to keep this under about 10 minutes and keep it brief, but make sure that I make all the points clear. I'm just going to get a sip really quick of my coffee. That's really good. Okay, so when I was about 9, I started noticing that I would feel like I had to do these ritualistic things, and if I didn't do these ritualistic things, something really bad would happen. I didn't know what it was that would happen, but my brain was telling me if I didn't do these ritualistic things that something terrible would happen. I actually feel like it probably started even before then, when I was even younger, like 4 and 5. I would constantly worry that my parents would get in a car wreck. I would cry and ask them not to go because I was just so petrified that that would happen. And so little things like that would build until I was about 9, when the rituals really started to happen and occur. And I'm just going to explain what some of those rituals were. And if you have never struggled with OCD, you're going to find this really weird. But a lot of us struggle with this, and it's very real and in our minds. And the feelings that we feel if we do not follow through with these rituals are very real. So that's why it is so exhausting and takes up so much of our time. But even then, we feel like we have to do it, or else. So I would notice one of the first ones was that I would have to turn like the light switch off and on, maybe like a certain amount of times. I don't know. At one period it was 9 times, and it was 12 times. I remember it having to be an even number at one period of my life, and then later on it had to be an odd number. It went back and forth. I had to have my shoelaces pointed a certain way when I would take off my shoes and go into my bedroom, and just, lay my shoes down. My shoelaces had to be pointing upward, I believe. That they couldn't be pointing left or right or down or unorganized in any way. When I would set the table for dinner, this is really hard talking about because I was so young. When I was setting the table for dinner, I would set like the spoon and the knife and the fork, but I would always have to point the knife facing down, or like in my mind, if the knife was facing up, then that was me stabbing God. And I don't know, that's just insane to think about, but it was so crippling that I had to face the knife down. And I don't think my mom ever really asked me why I did that, because I think she also and her sister also had and has and does struggle with OCD even into their adulthood, so they never really questioned it. I think she just realized that this is what my daughter's doing, and I hope she gets better. Unfortunately, it did get better, but not for a very long time. There were periods where I would have to look in the mirror a certain amount of times. I would look at myself and then walk away, have to come back, look at myself again, walk away, look at myself again, walk away. It was just exhausting. I remember the most awful and annoying one would be when I would go to bed. And now this all makes sense. I had this rock that I slept with from the time I was like 9 to the time I was even in high school. I had to sleep with this rock every night. If I did not have this rock like on my chest every night, I couldn't sleep. And doing more research into gemstones and crystals and things, now I realize that this rock was like a jasper, or some sort of agate or something. I'm not specific, but it has healing, relaxing, and calming properties, so that makes perfect sense. And this isn't a bunch of mumbo jumbo. If you look into crystals, they really do help. And so I've always been drawn to them. I've always felt more calm when I've worn them without even knowing, as a child. So that's so bizarre. But the worst one was probably when I was young and I had to sleep with the rock, with the gemstone, the jasper. But not only that, like, I had to have my right leg in front. I had to have my right leg all the way flat and my left leg like this. So if you can imagine it, I would have to sleep on my back. That was the only way that I would allow myself to sleep. And my right leg, this would be my right leg, had to be going down, and my left leg had to be like bended inward. And so I struggled with that till I was probably an early teen. I do remember having to still follow ritualistic things, like doorknobs and things, locking and unlocking, light switches and mirrors. That went on for a long time, but it did get better. But as an adult, in my 20s and 30s, the worry came back. The worry about my loved ones constantly came back. And that part really sucks, when you're like 25, 30 years old and you're asking your partner, please don't go to class because I feel like something bad's gonna happen to you, and they miss their class because you feel like something very detrimental will happen if they go to class. Like, I know that sounds nuts, but I was very, very consumed by these thoughts and very, very worried. And so things like that would continue. Partners I've been with now, and this all could have had to do with my thyroid disorder that I've obviously had for a really long time, not knowing that messed with my brain and anxiety and mental health altogether. So yes, it has gotten better, but other things have gotten worse into my adulthood, and I still worry about loved ones. I still feel like the doors have to be locked. I have to check like multiple times. I have extreme paranoia, so praying I get better and continue to get better and find the influence and help and guidance that I can and that you can as well. I love you guys, and I'll see you in my Q&A on Thursday.